All right, here we are, guys. We're out on Kentucky Lake. Memorial Day weekend has come and gone. I hope you guys had an enjoyable and safe holiday weekend with family and friends. And I'm back out here on the water today and give you guys a quick rundown on what's going on, what's been going on out here on the lake. You know, the million-dollar question is, are they going to get on ledges this year? If you followed any of my stuff in the past, followed Kentucky Lake fishing reports here, you know that the last couple years have been a bit of a struggle as far as the fishing goes offshore and fish schooling up offshore like they had in years past. The good news is last year there were a few schools that showed up out here. This year I'm seeing a little bit more of the same. Now I will tell you this, when you do find them, a lot of times they don't want to bite. They're not real easy to catch. You really have to work on them to try to get them to bite. And I've been saying this for quite some time now, but if you've watched some of my stuff in years past, when Kentucky Lake and Tennessee River, I'm not just gonna talk about Kentucky Lake right here, but the whole Tennessee River changed. It seems like over the last few years, as far as the offshore fishing goes. And what I mean by that is the big plugs, the big swim baits, the big spoons, things that we have seen historically in the past. It seems like those fish are getting so used to that stuff and so accustomed to those big baits that if you follow any of the MLF stuff or any of the Bass Elite guys, and when they go to Guntersville or Pickwick or some of the other lakes, it seems like everybody you watch has a spinning rod in their hands. And I think it's just fishing pressure, and electronics have changed so much over the years. You know, everybody emails me and say, hey, when can I book a trip? I want you to take me out there and show me how to deep crank. You know, I'm not going to say those days are gone, but man, it's so far from what it used to be. And it's just the fishing pressure, and the fish don't get schooled up as much, and then the electronics. You know, it's a combination of a lot of things. But things have changed so much out here that a lot of those fish that are coming out and getting schooled up, I've spent probably a week or so now actually spending time idling and looking out on the river ledges and some of the mouths of the creeks, and I've found a few places where they're schooling up. But like I say, they're hard to catch, and the reason for that is that there's not been any water moving. Back in the spring, I could not wait to get a day when we didn't have any wind. It seemed like every day it blew in the springtime, and days that you didn't want it to blow, it was blowing. And then now I can't get any breeze out here, and then the TVA's not pulling any water. They're pulling like less than 20,000 a day right now, and that is like zero current out here to speak of whatsoever. So everybody knows what that does to the fish. They kind of get suspended and just get tricky to catch. Now, like I say, there are a few fish showing up. I'm kind of anxious to see what the rest of the summer brings. So it's encouraging that I'm seeing some fish out offshore. But they're, like I say, they're hard to get to bite. And when you do find some, it seems like you have to finesse them. Everybody's familiar with the drop shot. This is just a simple drop shot rig. I put the 6 Sense Fishing Glitch. This is a Morning Dawn. This is a fairly new bait, and that's the staple color that we fish on the Tennessee River. Cool little bait for a drop shot. And a lot of times, if you pay attention to your graph, I'm using the Active Target Lowrance here on my boat, and a lot of times it seems like those fish, when it's slick out here, there's not water moving. If you'll watch your graph, a lot of times those fish will get right underneath that trolling motor, and I don't know if that's they're hearing the ping of the the sonar or what that is going on, but a lot of them will get right underneath that trolling motor, and you can drop down to them, and sometimes you have to really work on them to get them to bite, but you can catch a few doing that. Another bait that I do throw a lot this time of year, especially when the current gets kind of dead, is a blade bait. This is the Slice blade bait, and shad hammer color. You can also use like a little white spoon or something like that out here when you get right over the top of them, kind of make those fish mad. You'll see them on the Active Target, you'll see them on your 2D sonar, and you can drop right straight down to them and catch those fish a lot of times. Like I say, I don't have a lot I have caught a good many fish on a swim bait. A smaller swim bait. Have 2 rigged up this time of year, and what I typically do is those fish that are up in that 12-15 foot range, I'll throw something like a 1/2 ounce with like a Divine swim bait, like a 3.8 or a Kitech 3.8 or something like that on that. It's just for those fish that are up in that a little bit shallower, and then for those fish that are a little bit deeper out there on the river in that 20 to 25 foot range, a lot of times I'll throw like the Ignite Frenzy 5-inch with like a 3/4 ounce head or something like that on it. So I always have 2 rigged up. I really think that if conditions got right, there's a few places out here on the lake right now where you could really have some fun. Now, I will tell you, if you get a chance to fish in the evenings, I don't much. I've always got so much family stuff going on in the evenings, but if you could get out here before dark, I think maybe a little bit more water may be moving through the system, and you could probably catch some of those fish. A lot of white bass starting to school up, so that tells me the shad are starting to move out here on the main lakes, and a lot of places that I found largemouth and smallmouth schooled up here in the last week or so, those white bass are not far behind them, or a lot of times they're right above them, and those largemouth are right down below them. There is still a shallow water bite going on. Water temperatures, by the way, we finally hit 80 degrees. Surface water temps about 80 degrees, 78 to 80 degrees. The shad have spawned, and you can go up shallow and you can see a little bit of fry and stuff, swimming around the end of some laydowns and stuff like that. I've not spent a lot of time ever since I've started finding a few schools out here. I did start looking around a little bit more than I have in the last couple of years, but you want to have some fun, go catch some fish, get some bites. You can still, and I talk about this in every one of my reports, but it's simple as this. It's one of those baits. This is a Divine finesse swim bait head with just a little 3.2 Divine swim bait on it. Take that thing. These calm, slick days are tough. Just be prepared for it. If you're out here fun fishing, it's going to be tough, whether you're offshore or up shallow. Even those fish that are up on the banks, go around those gravel banks on the east side. I fish a lot this time of year. If I'm just looking to get some bites, throw that little swim bait around. Those little fry are up on the banks, and you can catch some fish that way. And you'll catch some decent ones. You'll catch a lot of numbers, but you may hit 3-4 banks without getting a bite, and then you fish the next one, and you'll catch 4 down it, and 3 of them may be keepers. So you can bounce around a lot doing that right there. And also up shallow, the water willow, the grass that grows right on the bank. If you get on, especially the west side, you see a lot more of it on the west side than you do the east side. Get out there. That stuff's starting to finally grow about the time, this time of year when the weeds really start growing and getting real green. That's when that water willow kind of kicks up. It'll be, the key to it is finding the water willow that has a little bit of water around it. You'll look up on the bank and you'll see a lot of it up on the bank, right on the water's edge, but it don't have any water around it up in it. If you can drive around and find those areas where that water willow has a lot of water around it, that's the kind of key areas. You can catch them on a buzz bait, you can catch them on a chatterbait around that stuff. The best bait for me is a Divine swim jig. That's a 1/2 ounce bluegill color with a little booty tail, little Divine little bluegill color on the back. If the water's a little bit colored up, throw your black and blues, but for the most part, water clarity out here is fairly clean, and it has been for quite some time now. And then, I don't expect, there's not a lot of rain forecasted. I think just the typical summertime, late spring, isolated thunder showers in the evenings, I think, are possible every day here, from now on, I'm sure. But that's kind of what I've got going on out here. I know everybody's kind of reached out and, are they going to get offshore? Are they going to school up? And the answer is yes, I think. But the system overall, as far as the largemouth, still, we still got to get some more numbers. And don't get me wrong, there's a ton of fish in this lake right now, but it's just that 2 to 3 pound quality of fish that really schooled up. And in years past, there were so many of them, they would come out here and school up. And you'll fish, you may fish all day and not catch a 5 pounder. The big fish are just not here. We've got to get these younger age class of fish up, and in years to come, it'll be good. But that's kind of all I got out here on the lake. If anybody is looking for a trip out on Kentucky Lake, you can look at me up on my website, BrandonHunterFishing.com. Shoot me an email at info@BrandonHunterFishing.com, and don't forget to come by the shop. We're right there on Highway 68, High Tech Outdoors. We've got a full selection of all the 6 Sense fishing products that I throw here. Got a tackle selection there, all things marine electronics, boats, tri-tunes. We've got everything in stock. Come see us, and I'll see you guys on the water.